We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.
What a better way. I can't think of a better way, actually, to start the show off than a little bit of Bruce Springsteen, the boss. A little blast from the 80s there. All right, welcome, everybody, to a brand spanking new edition of Granite State Live on this Tuesday night. I got to remember what day, what month are we in even? We're in, my God, we're in May already.
I can't believe we're in May.
The 6th day of May, 2025. Great to have you along on this quite rainy, actually, quite a downpour here that just hit about 30 minutes ago at the Wyndham studio. The roar of the rain on the rooftops. I'm wondering if the mics are going to pick that up. I'm your host, Keith Hansen, the unapologetic contrarian conservative, never apologizing for my toxic white masculinity. I was born this way, kids. Never apologizing for my Christian faith, heavily armed, as always.
Tenacious Terese, always getting herself into some sort of trouble.
Yes, you are.
And I am Julian ACR, the blue-collar intellectual. Good and happy to be back.
It's good to have you back. All right, we got some fireworks last week. I'm obviously back from Alabama. Not back from Ireland, unfortunately. We about 6 hours before our trip, we had to call it quits because my wife discovered what poison ivy does to you. In fact, head to toe poison ivy. So she was one gigantic pustule. I actually felt pretty bad for her. So we had to cancel our Ireland trip, postpone it actually. So we're going to be doing that in June. So looking forward to that. Yeah, that actually was a pretty accurate because it's leaves of 3, let them be. But what happens when you don't have the leaves? And it's now the shrubs, just the vines that you're trying to clear out. And
that's why I was wondering if it was the creeping Virginia.
Scooping up armfuls of poison ivy vines, not realizing that all that sap is
and then to miss out on Ireland over it.
Yeah. But that's okay, because when we go in June, we actually get to pick up a couple extra days. And it's nice because in June, that's when the daylight is about 17 hours. Yeah. So previous trip, it was like 5 hours of daylight. The sun rises at 10 in the morning. By 3:30 in the afternoon, it's dark. So do your sightseeing in that little narrow window of that sliver of daylight. So it'll be nice. All right, we got a great show coming up for you. We're going to kick it off with a couple of rants here. Coming up at 7:30, we're going to have a conversation about that Chinese purchase, the CCP purchase of the water company. What happens when Chinese government gets involved in critical infrastructure here in the United States? Well, I got to be honest with you. Some people say, well, that's free market. Well, not when we're talking about Chinese communists. It isn't. I, for one, am not a big fan of this. So we're going to dive into that with, and actually, she just announced her candidacy for New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District. Lily Tang Williams will be joining us in studio. And then the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to continue this conversation, albeit, how would we describe the conversation about zoning?
It's definitely the hot topic at the State House right now. My phone is constantly blowing up with people from all sides of the issue, with private messages, phone calls. It has been just a very hot topic.
Yes, to say the least. So we're going to continue that conversation with two-term New Hampshire State Representative and former co-chair of the New Hampshire 2024 Trump campaign, Lou Gargiulo. He's going to be joining us via video link. And then we're also going to have Matt Mayberry back from the New Hampshire Home Builders Association. So we're going to continue that conversation about zoning. I don't think this is a conversation that's going to get resolved tonight. But, the one thing that I really want to point out here is that the conversation has to be respectful, because I'm watching Republicans tear themselves apart. I'm watching the Republican Party tear itself apart over this topic. And I'm watching Ray Buckley, not literally, but I can just picture him. He has beady little eyes and his doughy little fingers, thick from, thumbing through pages and pages and pages of child pornography. Yes, the pederast that you are, Ray Buckley. By the way, I got a chair right here for you. Anytime you want to come on the show and top topics, I know that's an invitation that we've extended to you going back to 2016. Not that I'm expecting you're going to take us up on that anytime soon, but anytime you want to have a conversation, Ray, more than happy to have you on the program. But I just watch Ray Buckley sitting back, just wringing his doughy little fingers in delight, his beady little eyes shining, because he doesn't have to lift a finger to destroy the Republican Party. All he has to do is sit back and just watch the infighting that goes on.
If that isn't our superpower, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, I don't know what is. We've talked about this many, many times over the years, the idea that Democrats will agree on 9 out of 10 things, and they'll work on that 9 out of 10 things in order to get those done, and they'll disagree on the one, whereas we will agree on 9 out of 10 things, and we will slaughter each other over that one thing we disagree on.
God, it's
and do
almost
we
as
really disagree on it? But it's less that we disagree on it as much as we're disagreeing on how to go about it. Because we all agree that there needs to be a solution. We just disagree on what's the first step we got to take, that painful stepping on a treadmill moment.
Yeah.
But when you run that you're going to do one thing as a party, and then you take a hard right, are we supposed to sit silent?
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's what's going on here with the zoning and planning stuff.
Silence.
They actually posted that they were going to keep local control and work on fast tracking the state level permits. And now we're completely switching gears. And we're 100 days in? So I get it. I don't think we should be tearing each other apart. But I also think if we're going to run, we need to be consistent with what we're doing as a party.
I think the major issue is that we get so personal with it. Like we attack each other personally, where we should be keeping this at a professional, how do we solve this issue?
Well, I mean, the bottom line, kids, is that, we do have a common enemy, and that's progressivism. And so that's really who we should be focusing on. Juan, can you throw that comment back up? Because I just kind of caught it out of the corner of my eye there. And I wanted to, for those unaware, so Maura Annette Chappelle is saying on, I think this is a Facebook link, for those unaware, Matt Mayberry is the CEO and lobbyist from New Hampshire Home Builders and wrote or helped to write some of the zoning bills. Yep, and we are going to have Matt on this evening at 8:30 because I want to continue that conversation with him. I mean, my goal here is I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to say that anybody is right or wrong or corrupt or anything else like that. Our job here is, first and foremost, is to expand the conversation and to give both sides of the argument an opportunity to share their thoughts. Ultimately, and to be honest with you, I mean, I have an opinion, but oftentimes I don't necessarily voice my opinion on certain things because I want the viewers, I want the listeners to be able to arrive at their own conclusions. I think that's really, really important. We can steer a dialogue towards making sure that certain questions are being answered efficiently. Mm-hmm. So that way people can make up their own minds. And I got to be honest, I mean, if you are going to sit here and watch a 2-hour program of a bunch of talking heads sitting around a table somewhere, you're probably concerned about the issues. Mm-hmm. You want to know more about the issues. And I think, to be honest with you, that this would be a very interesting town hall topic to take this show on the road and to say, hey, listen, we want to hear from you after both sides of the aisle have had an opportunity to present themselves. And any question is fair as long as it's responsible, as long as it's respectful. every question is on the table, and the expectation is that we're not going to pivot, we're not going to bifurcate, we're not going to shift the argument, ignore the facts, and then name call. We're going to focus on answering those questions. I think that's important.
I think that's a great idea, because town halls are where you really get to hear from the average person and what their genuine concerns are, rather than hearing it through the mouthpieces of state representatives or activists or lobbyists. We get to hear from the average person in the Granite State,
right,
and where this hits them, whether it hits them in their pocketbook, whether it's going to hit them in their zoning and their ability to have a safe neighborhood, or to have a culture that they bought into when they bought their house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I will be doing a X Space tomorrow, and inviting everyone to come and do a town hall on the topic where people are able to ask those questions, but certainly encourage everyone to call in tonight as well.
Yep. And speaking of that, 833-603-8255. Somebody last week had said they called in and they got an ad, and it's not 855, it's 833, which is still a toll-free number. 833-603-TALK. That's 833-603-8255. And the phone lines are open and they are working. One of the things that I do have to ask, and I don't know, I mean, I was in Alabama for 3 days, so maybe I didn't get the memo. Go figure. Where is the NHGOP on this topic? Have we heard anything from the NHGOP one way or another to try to maybe throw a little bit of fire or a little bit of water on this fire and to dampen it and say, hey, listen, guys, this is really what's at stake here?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm hearing, I did hear from Holly Novaleski and got her opinion, but I don't know that she's comfortable with me sharing that. The pulse on AOT, where she's going to land on this, should it make it to her desk. I'm getting some pretty credible insight onto that. I know the Log Cabin Republicans said they're not in agreement with any of it whatsoever. So there's different entities that have posted publicly kind of their position on it, but it definitely is all over the map.
So last time I checked, and I'm gonna pull up here on my trusty Chrome browser. Let's see, New Hampshire Log Cabin Republicans. Do they still have their board of directors up?
They took that off their website, I believe.
Huh. How about that? Why is that? Any idea? I mean, do we want to speculate?
I honestly have no idea.
I don't want to speculate on the timing of that, but
I mean, we've got chapter president Jim Morgan, but I mean that's I mean, unless let's look under leadership. I don't want to. Oh no, actually no, they do have it up. So Jill Homan, vice chair; Keith Schaefer, secretary; Daniel Innes, chairman. Kevin Leader, treasurer; Charles Moran, senior advisor; Ed Williams, executive director; Leonard Olds, Skylar Akins, Matt Cafery, Brett Dinkins.
They must have just put it back up.
So, and I'm not recognizing really a lot of these names. This is National Board of Directors, I think. Looks like, but I'm not recognizing any of these individuals as New Hampshire people.
The only name
Holly
I recognize on that list is Dan Innes.
Dan Innes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Holly said they're going to try and lay low because they want to reelect Republicans, and you do have the House Majority Leader Osborne, Joe Alexander, Sweeney, Ross Berry, Keith Murphy, quite a few of our legislators who have sponsored these bills and definitely whipping the vote. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, the one thing, like I said, this is definitely a contentious argument because there's a lot at stake here. So I don't want to steal a lot of the thunder from either Lou or from Matt. So we will. I think we'll hold off here until they come in for further opining.
There's a lot going on. Julian sent me quite a few memes from Fox News, different topics, hot topics that are going on. In Pakistan, we've got a war going on. We've got blackouts.
So India has bombed Pakistan, and Pakistan has already vowed that they're going to be striking back. Where this should be concerning to people is that these are two nuclear powers. Yeah. And like I know when people think about nuclear powers, we're thinking about the big ones, right? We're thinking about China, we're thinking about Russia, we're thinking about Little Kim in North Korea, and we're thinking about whichever random dictator pops up in the Middle East recently. But Pakistan is a nuclear power. They've had long, contentious issues with India going back hundreds of years at this point, where they've been arguing over this border. And this is not the type of thing that we want to see happening in the Middle East. But we do have updates from the Trump administration. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, and throw up the...
We don't want him throwing up.
Oh, no, don't throw up. But throw up...
he'll short out his board.
Alcatraz. Donald Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz for ruthless and violent criminals. This goes back
upgrades.
No, he wants to renovate it, and this goes back to, I had a joke a while back about... taking all the degenerates and all the extremists and all the pedos and sticking them on an island and letting them fight it out to see whose ideology works. You know what? Whoever wins will give you $1 million and will drop your butt off somewhere else, but not the United States. But in the rest of the world, $1 million would be just fine. I'm sure there are plenty of countries who will appreciate your capitalism, your spending. But we have another story that you guys might like. This is a couple who won the lottery, and they got drunk, and they went out and partied after. And after getting drunk and partying, the husband got into a fight with the police, and the wife was arrested for drunken disorderly. $167.3 million. Wow.
What was the 106? That's what they won?
Yep, that's what they won.
But they ended up in jail.
Powerball.
So they still have the money. I mean, at least now they've got plenty of cash for bail.
Plenty of cash for their defense, too. I don't think just assaulting an officer is going to go very well.
Yeah, but hey, 167 or $163 million, whatever it is, that can make a lot of your problems go away. I mean, you can hire a really, really good attorney.
Well,
and you can fight that.
In more fun news, we have Sovereignty wins the Kentucky Derby 2025.
So fun.
I went to the Salem GOP Kentucky Derby event. Me and my wife went. Got all guzzied up, got her a beautiful hat. As soon as we said it, she had to go shopping. We bet on Sovereignty, and my wife won $850.
But what was the second place winner? Wasn't it journalism?
Yes, it was journalism in the second place. So Sovereignty is number one, and journalism is number two. Things are looking up in the Trump administration right here. We got Sovereignty and journalism at the top of the Kentucky Derby.
So let us down.
What Secretariat? Somebody had mentioned this to me, and I know about as much as horse racing as I know about. I don't know. Pick something I don't know about. Every horse that was racing, and I've got the producer nodding so hard right now that I think his headphones are going to flop off his head. Every single horse that raced was fathered by or sired by, I should say. It's almost like bloodline. Elon Musk with, he's got 150, little crotch fruits running around out there. Yeah. Well, evidently, every single horse that raced in this Kentucky Derby was sired by
They had his bloodline.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Oh, it wasn't, maybe not sired,
not the dad, but had his bloodline in their genealogy.
Well, that's very common in horse racing. As soon as somebody wins a Kentucky Derby, they end up siring an entire line that becomes the next generation of insane racehorses. You could pick the top 3 horses that place in the Kentucky Derby and pick for the next 30 years who... every single one of them is going to be from those bloodlines. So it's not out of the ordinary.
They make more money from their sperm after they win a race than the race itself. So they go on to be very profitable.
Fame and fortune, and and lots of babies.
Well, we got some more good news out of Trump administration. Trump admin shuts down a lab accused of killing beagles for decades. You remember the beagle with his head in the glass box, is covered in fire ants, being basically tortured because they wanted to do an experiment on what it would look like, or what the repercussions would be of, torturing a dog. It's amazing, these random experiments that our federal government puts money into.
Yeah.
Like they gave cocaine to chimps a while back. I'm like we don't know what cocaine does. You could have gone to, I thought we lived through the 90s and the crack epidemic. We know, and we've seen stockbrokers at parties on Wall Street. Do we not already know what cocaine does?
We have all this money for this, but yet the Federal Aviation Administration is still using a network of computers with floppy disk drives.
Oh my God. And keeping stuff in caves. Don't forget that. We have caves filled with boxes of paperwork and files and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, I thought we lived in the digital age. Why are you going down to a cave to get stuff out of a box?
I got to be honest with you. I have had more hard drives. This is my little, 2 terabyte hard drive here, which is, I guess, is magnetically shielded, which is good. Because I have had more files that have been on external drives and thumb drives that after a year or two, I go to open them up and there's a file corruption and they're gone.
Yep.
And, if you think about this, Klaus Schwab, right? You will own nothing and you will be happy. And I thought about that as I purchased a copy of Drop Dead Gorgeous, by the way. If you haven't seen Drop Dead Gorgeous, fantastic movie. Makes fun of people from Minnesota. I love it. It's one of my wife's favorite movies, too. But you go and you buy a movie off of, Fandango or Vudu or whatever, and you download it to your digital wallet. You don't actually own the copy. You don't own that. If that company goes under, if something happens, you don't actually own that. So as far as storing things in the cloud, couple of things here about that. I would rather have the government storing things in salt caves. Susan DeRoy says, where is PETA? People Eating Tasty Animals. I love that organization. Apparently they're not involved anymore. I haven't heard anything from PETA.
No, they occasionally post a meme online on X.
They should be so happy about the beagles.
Yeah, they occasionally post a meme on X, decrying meat eaters for eating bacon and stuff like that. And every Thanksgiving they pop up to lecture us all about having fun and spending time with our families. But we got a couple more stories.
I got to share with you one thing, because this was great. Before I moved up to New Hampshire from Florida, I had a kind of a going away party with a whole bunch of friends, and so everybody came over, and I basically had enough burgers and dogs and beer and stuff for about 12 people. So I said, if you're coming over, you should probably bring some of your own stuff. I can go ahead and I'll throw it on the grill or whatever. If you have any special dietary needs, not that I was really hanging out with a lot of people with special dietary needs, but anyway, so I had a group of people that came over, and 2 people were vegetarians, and they're like, oh, so we brought our black bean tofu burgers or whatever. So they're like, can you cook this for us? I'm like, sure, no problem. I'll throw it on the grill, no problem. So I throw it on the grill, and I serve it up, and they come over to me later on, and they're like, what did you do to those burgers? And I said, I just threw them on the grill and cooked them up. They're like, those were the best burgers we've ever had. We eat these all the time. And what I didn't tell them was I put the burgers on the bottom rack, and on the top rack were two racks of pork ribs. So these vegetarian burgers were just drenched in pork fat. And I didn't have the heart to tell them that, they
mortified.
were. But
my wife,
that was.
Oh, she had a coworker that was a vegetarian or a pescatarian, and came over our house and had what was it? I think she had bacon wrapped asparagus and had pork ribs and had I did a flank steak, and she all of a sudden vegetarianism went out the window. That died.
She smelled it.
She goes, wow, even the salmon was better than anything. I go, yeah, I used bacon fat when I was making that, when I was putting that salmon on the grill.
Now, pescatarian, so that's got to be fish. You eat everything except, so it's almost like an ovo-lacto.
Yeah, so it's you can have eggs and you can have fish, but you don't eat any other meats, if I remember correctly.
Why
could
can't
be
you?
Wrong about that.
So why is a fish an exemption? You don't want to eat animals. Why? Because they suffer and they have feelings. Well, I mean, what about the poor little fishy? When you pull him out of his
fish
national.
Don't cry.
How do you know?
Lil Nemo doesn't cry.
Well, he's a cartoon character. Have you ever seen a flounder out of water?
I don't know. My fish have a lot of personality. My saltwaters. Yeah.
I don't look at fish out of water long enough to, normally they're dead, or when I take them out of the water, I'm cooking them, so I'm not listening to them.
Yeah.
Their feelings don't matter as I'm seasoning them up.
Yeah.
I used to get freaked out pulling meat off a bone. When I did. I went for a couple of years where I could eat meat, but I couldn't pull it off the bone. It freaked me out.
So I have a question. You guys eat chicken wings, right?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you eat chicken wings, do you take your bones and just throw them on the plate, or do you stack your chicken bones?
No, I just take them out and throw them on the plate.
You just throw them on the plate?
I
It's always
stack
interesting.
'em.
You stack them?
Yeah.
I stack them too. And I was talking with an anthropologist, and they said that was actually one of the signs of when they would find archaeological relics. That's how they knew the difference, I guess, between like Neanderthal and Australopithecines, because as man started to evolve, that they would stack bones instead of just throwing them outside of whatever cave that they were in. So they were very organized about how they would take care of their waste. And so, later generations of man were known for bone stacking. So I'm like, okay, so I resemble more an Australopithecines than I do a Neanderthal because I'm stacking my chicken bones. So evidently I'm a much more highly evolved entity. So I felt good about myself.
Well, we got a couple more stories.
I like this
Mercedes-Benz to expand U.S. manufacturing plant as Trump eases auto tariffs. See, this is a big one right here. This is what we want. People assumed that Trump had no aim with the tariffs and that the tariffs were solely for producing income. And while he has teased the idea of using the tariffs to substitute tax income and moving away from an income tax, this is jobs. What it's largely about right here. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And we have some more stories.
The Dow Jones is doing well, too.
Dow Jones is up. Trump shoots down rumors he'll seek a third term because they just can't stop asking him that question, no matter how many times Caroline Leavitt has to answer it. Shout out to you, Caroline, because I could not continuously get asked the same question every single day without asking somebody whether or not they rode the short bus to the White House that day. Trump will donate once again his $400,000 annual presidential salary. Hasn't picked which organizations he's going to donate it to, each fiscal quarter, but he said he's going to do it. Another thing that we have is Maine drops lawsuit against Trump admin over trans athletes and girls sports. Yes, we get another win. We rack up yet another win. Maine had to back down because, you know what? This is all really about politics is very much about who swings the bigger,
I want to do a shout out to Nick Blanchard. He was very participatory very early on here in New Hampshire, showing up at rallies and flag waves and everything else, but he is on the Maine border, and he has really championed a lot of the effort in Maine at the State House as far as women in sports. He's speaking at the school boards. He's gone viral a few times. His Facebook post, the one this morning, it was just spot on, definitely what I needed to hear. So, Nick, if you're out there, keep up the fight, and we're praying for you. You're doing good work out there in Maine.
All right, and final story for national news. We got elementary school backs down after telling Christian students they couldn't sing worship songs at a talent show. So we're supposed to be a bastion of free speech. We're supposed to have freedom of religion. And it's always seemed to work in favor of the freedom of everybody else's religion except for Christian students. Yep. Back in the 90s, it was stopping you from putting a crucifix or a nativity scene in your yard. Then it was you can't pray openly out loud before you eat at the lunch table. You can't bring your Bible with you to school. You can't read scripture or talk about faith, Christ, or anything in the presence of anybody who could possibly be offended, because we're third-hand offended these days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we just racked up a win for free speech and freedom of religion.
I think, since there's states like Massachusetts that require a license to carry, LTC, to exercise your Second Amendment rights, there should be an LTW, a license to worship. There should be an LTO, a license to opine, because, clearly these are rights that, can hurt people. Massachusetts wants to regulate firearms because, guns are bad and they can hurt people. And so can your words, too. I'm sure that there are Democrats that have listened to this show or who have watched my radio show, listened to my radio show, who literally crawl into a fetal position and cry themselves to sleep on their gigantic Bernie and Elizabeth Warren pillows. Words can hurt people. They can cut very, very deeply. So, you should be, before you can opine on social media, you should have to take a class on responsible use of words. And if you're going to worship, you should take a class. You should learn about all the different religions so you can make an educated decision, and you can learn how religion has hurt people over the years. And if you want to worship, you should have an LTW. It's ridiculous.
We're going to have that conversation about free speech next week, because let's just say the influencers on both sides of the aisle have they need to be checked into a mental institution.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a very, very quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a Chinese beverage company acquiring a bottled water facility in Nashua, and we're going to get Lily Tang Williams' opinion on that, and also her thoughts on running again for New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District. Much more of Granite State Live coming up right after this. Don't go away.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gang-banging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best-looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteGrok.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it. And we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for GraniteGrok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
Good song. Now, I do have to say, there was a cover of this done by the oftentimes ignored half of Simon and Garfunkel. It was Art Garfunkel did a version of When a Man Loves a Woman. It was actually pretty good. It was very slow, but it was pretty decent. So I don't know. I like that. I like the old fogey music.
I'm biased towards the Michael Bolton version. No, I like the raspy voice though. Like you can hear I got a raspy voice. Yeah. I like Joe Cocker. Like I like that bluesy, raspy sort of voice.
Yeah, like the Kim Carnes.
Yeah.
Like I've been smoking Luckies since I was a fetus. Kind of like you're not so much singing as you are hacking up chunks of lung tar.
That's exactly what it is. That's how the old blues artists used to add character to their voices, bourbon and cigars. I'm a bourbon and cigars guy, and I sing the blues.
Geez, how many cigars have we opined on politics over?
Probably enough that we should go see a doctor.
Either that or start singing the blues. I don't know. Welcome back to a brand new edition of Granite State Live. I'm your host, Keith Hansen. Great to have you along on this Tuesday evening, the 6th day of May, 2025. 833-603-8255. That's 833-603-TALK if you'd like to get in and share your opinion on anything that we're talking about. If you'd like to join us through video link as well, granitestatelive@gmail.com. That's granitestatelive@gmail.com. So last week I was broadcasting, albeit remote, from a conference room at a Courtyard Marriott down in Alabama. Beautiful, beautiful, by the way. Brand new homes, 4-bedroom, 2-car attached garage, 2,500, 3,000 square feet, 2 acres of land, $250,000. Boom. Amazing. And low property taxes, too. It's amazing to see that. And you juxtapose that with...
on the list.
Juxtapose that with, $350,000 for a mobile home on a postage stamp sized parcel of land up here in New Hampshire. It's ridiculous and it's not sustainable, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But one of the things that we did, I was under the impression we were going to do this last week, and we didn't get a chance to do that. So we're going to devote this segment to it. And I did send over to the production team a couple of websites here, and I want to pull this up. The first one, if we could, we had teased this story that the Chinese Communist Party, we all understand, at least we should understand, that the Chinese, people talk about, there's millionaires and billionaires in China and that they've got a free market economy. And they actually don't. They have what's called state capitalism. And the largest shareholder of every single corporation is the Chinese Communist Party. And nothing gets done with a Chinese company unless the CCP literally they are approving of those actions. So we did tease a story that there was a bottled water company, Penachuk Waterworks in Nashua, and that was acquired by a Chinese company. So in preparing the story, I plug it into Google. And of course, if you've noticed now with Google, before you get the results on Google, you get the AI overview. So the artificial intelligence is now giving you the synopsis of what it is that you're looking for. And I'd like to have the producer pull this up, if we would, please, if we could do that. So in researching the story, evidently, there is no record of a Chinese company acquiring a water company in New Hampshire. The closest example is the city of Nashua purchasing Penachuk Waterworks, which served Nashua and the surrounding municipalities for $138 million in 2010. This was a public purchase rather than a private acquisition by a Chinese entity. Additionally, the Aquarian Water Company, a New Jersey-based company, acquired a water system in Stratham, New Hampshire, but this was not a Chinese-owned company.
I want to keep in mind here, because this is something I've seen a lot with AI. AI operates on whatever information you put into it. Their information isn't always up to date. So sometimes you have to coax the AI into giving you the right answer. So if you type in the company that we're about to talk about right now, you'll get AI will have to admit to you, oh, you're right, I got it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if that's the case, then I guess the question would be, and if we could pull up the LinkedIn, you don't have that. Okay. So the LinkedIn ad, if you go to LinkedIn.com and you search under the jobs title, you will notice that there is a company called Nong Fu Spring Company Limited that was hiring for a quality manager at their beverage plant in New Hampshire. The ideal candidate is a critical thinker who will proactively improve the quality systems of the company through internal audits, participation in process improvement programs, and interactions with key partners to obtain constructive feedback. Blah, 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 blah. Nong Fu Spring Company, quality manager, beverage plant. Now, if you go and you Google Nong Fu Spring, and I think our producer has this, you get the option to get a English version of the page. Well, there's Nong Fu Spring right there, the benchmark of China's drinking water industry. Founded in 1996, Nong Fu Spring is China's largest packaging water supplier, holding the #1 spot for market share, and is one of the top 20 beverage companies in China. And the page goes on to read, in terms of retail sales in 2019, Nongfu Spring ranks among the top 3 in the Chinese market for tea beverages, functional beverages, and juice beverages as well. A Chinese company. So I don't know exactly where AI is getting their information, and I don't know, maybe I put on my conspiracy theory tinfoil helmet here, but it seems to me that a company that is one of the largest beverage packaging and manufacturing companies in mainland China is now advertising for quality control managers at a bottling plant in New Hampshire. Tells me that this is not exactly me just wandering off the reservation into conspiracy theory speculation territory, that there's actually something to this. And I got to be honest with you, when I look at the Chinese Communist Party acquiring, and I don't know about you guys, I would consider water to be a critical infrastructure, because without water, we all wither and perish, kind of like my poor spider plant that I forgot to water for like 3 months. So now it's a former spider plant. And without water, we would be former entities as well, too. So it is critical infrastructure. Susan DeRoy says, don't trust AI. No, you're right, Susan. We don't trust AI. That's why it's artificial intelligence, not real intelligence. We don't trust real intelligence either because, we have Democrats.
AI is only as good as the information that it has feeding into it. That's the problem. Is AI is an algorithm, and it is a predictive algorithm. But if you put in information, it will work off the information. The problem is, who is populating the information in the AI? And Google is not a trustworthy organization.
No, I wouldn't trust Google as far as I could throw them. So to get the opinion, and somebody who has actually a lot more experience with the Chinese Communist Party than I have, and certainly as a survivor of Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution in China, it gives us great pleasure to welcome to the program Lily Tang Williams, who just a couple of weeks ago announced she is running again for New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District to represent the fine men and women of New Hampshire's long forgotten. Hey, people in Concord, there's a 2nd Congressional District, you guys know, and it would be really nice if you actually paid some attention to them. And hey, NHGOP, there's 2 congressional districts, not just CD1. So maybe we should actually put some resources into helping the candidates in CD2 actually defeat the Democrat opponents. But I digress.
I'd like to extend that invitation to the NRCC. Please pay attention to the 2nd Congressional District. Lily could use all the help she can get.
Lily Tang Williams, great to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
First time here. It's nice, and I'm very impressed with this studio.
It's a nice studio.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you. Let's get right into it. You did very, very well actually in this last election cycle, and I think you gave Maggie. I almost want to say Maggie Badlander because I'm so used to now following the Badlander on X. It's great. But Maggie Goodlander, you certainly gave her a run for her money. I think that she thought it was going to be an easy race, and you gave her a run for her money. So great job. Now you're going to run again. What's your strategy this time?
Well, that's why I started earlier and raised lots of money. And remember, I did not have a TV ads. Can you imagine when viral with Robert Kennedy's endorsement and with TV ads running for 10 days? That could be, different results. But I think it was, she refused to debate me. 3 college campuses invited us to debate. She declined. And
why do you think that is?
Well, because she did not want to know people to know the truth. Her last name should be, Maggie Goodlander, Temposi, and Sullivan. That's lots of background. Yeah. And she does not live in Nashua. She coming from the swamp and around trying to steal the seats with millions of dollars from George Soros, Clinton's, Obama supporters, and of course her husband Jake Sullivan is deeply connected with all those insiders in D.C. So I was just, after 55 days left, after when the 13 people primary, I did not have money, spend all the money in the primary. I did not even have a professional team. I was just scrambling to just focus on debate and expose her, and because she's a puppet, she really doesn't have substance. But it's just too late.
You look at the congressional districts, and if we could redistrict them, because when you analyze your numbers and where you won and where she outran you, it was the college campuses. So we've got to do a better job as conservatives to reaching that demographic. There's actually going to be a dance club opening up in Hampton, and I know they're working on an initiative to really reach the college campuses here in New Hampshire for these 3 seats. So hopefully that helps put more wind in your sail and more opportunity for you to get into those campuses.
There's no redistricting, the congressional district.
They're
It's
not
going
going
to
to.
happen.
Yeah,
So now we just have
But it
to
makes it
rely on the
hard.
people. The
Right.
thing is, you talk about NRC, say, you know what, until you show the money, they're not even look at this race. It's too earlier. And they don't know who's going to jump in the primary. I know for sure I'm going to running against Maggie Goodlander.
Well, that's how
do
the
like-
game is
2.0.
played.
I do
That's-
like having the parodies on
Yeah.
X, though, to let whoever is behind that, we should do that with every Democrat candidate so that you guys can focus on your race in the primary, but that primary to the general is so short that if we have people at the very beginning talking about who these Democrat candidates really are, that really helps. And that is very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it's
You know,
grassroots efforts
Yes.
too.
Having and I think about you've got obviously you've got Hanover and Lebanon for Dartmouth, and you've got Keene, which is just rabidly Democrat over there. But I remember sitting down with Chris Ager going back to November, and we were talking about the work that Turning Point has done. And Turning Point and Charlie Kirk did a great job of these campus tours where they were just common sense, rational, conversational presences on college campuses that I think really changed the hearts and the minds of a lot of people by going to where they are and, again, having rational and effective conversations with these people. So I would love to see you and Charlie. Vivek Ramaswamy was a big part of that as well, too. Where Vivek's going to be here for his political future, that remains to be seen. But, I mean, I would love to see you and Charlie Kirk and other people from Turning Point go to Dartmouth and go to Keene State College and have a presence there and be able to address these college students directly. Let them ask you those questions.
If they let me in, remember, I came to New Hampshire before I even moved here to speak on college campus of Dartmouth College and PSU and even like a Portsmouth Community College there. I have been speaker to tell my students, educate students about the horror of communism for past 8 years. But now it's like because I have a big hat to wear now, it's very difficult to get in. So I need for example, the professors invite me to be guest speakers, students, organizations to host me. And when Dartmouth College and political union said for free speech needs to do a debate, but it's Maggie's campaign declined and debate on PSU campus, Dartmouth College campus, and New England College.
New England College.
Yeah.
So you actually challenged Maggie Goodlander to, was it 5 debates this time, right? On college campuses throughout the state?
I just talked to Adam Sexton on Close Up. I said after primary 10 debates, 10 town halls, Maggie show up with me. And otherwise, you're not for democracy. She talk about democracy all the time, but you deny the people who want to make informed decisions. When 2 of you show up, hammered it out.
I think you have a good vision for New Hampshire, and I think you have a good vision for what should be brought to D.C. to represent New Hampshire. I think New Hampshire would benefit from seeing a debate between the 2 of you. And I think a town hall style debate, because you're very good on the stump, being able to answer people's questions. You think you'd benefit from a good town hall debate, getting to hear from the average person?
I love town halls because I talk to average people all the time.
Yeah.
I go to Walmart, I go to Market Basket. I just have a conversation with people. They recognize me when I wear my team shirt. I say, "Are you Lily Tang Williams?" I say, "Yes." "Oh, I voted for you. I have a question for you." So I like it.
Lily, I don't know if you remember, but I first met you. You came into the studio at WNTK up in New London, and you were still in Colorado. You're still living in Colorado, and you were visiting New Hampshire.
I came here give a talk on college campus.
Yeah, and you came in, and I had you. So this is going back a number of years.
Yeah.
And I remember that was around the time we were spending a lot of time talking about how we're going to see, and this was something that I had forecasted, we're going to see a time when Democrats are going to refuse to debate because it's based on a postmodern concept that if I debate you, now I'm actually bringing and manifesting your viewpoint. And so they're not going to refuse to debate because they're afraid of being being shut down or proven wrong. It's that I'm not going to validate your argument and give your argument credibility by having that debate. And lo and behold, here we are a couple of short years later, and it's actually coming to fruition.
Got a great question from Tom Murray right there. Would you be open to advising the Trump administration on matters related to China and policy?
Yes, I have tried since he won, and through even RFK, right? I gave him my resume to transition team. I haven't got a phone call yet. I just keep saying, hey, Trump leads a real good China advisor who is for American first and who also knows how to deal with CCP and speak Mandarin as native language, but I just haven't got a call yet.
And you were even dealing with companies and commerce when it had to do.
Yeah, I'm qualified to go to court today to testify on anything related to China as expert witness. I have law degree and I have part-time business. I can get hired by law firms, by prosecution side to go to court, handle federal cases related to China. Well, so why not to help our administration?
I want to get you back on the show. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to get you back on the show here at some point because I want to talk more about this. But before we get too far into the weeds on this, I don't want to lose sight of what the topic was, which was the Nongfu Spring Company. So I wanted to make sure that we spent some time talking about that.
That's what I wanted to mention. You were down at the State House because there's pending legislation right now in the New Hampshire State House. And that's something I want you guys all to know that I love about Lily is she doesn't just show up at election time. She's down there fighting in the State House. So there was legislation. You went and testified, and it has directly to do with situations like this where people are coming in and
it's called SB 162.
Yep.
I testified twice, one time at the Senate, one time in the State House and Commerce Committee. It has not made out of committee yet. It's sponsored by the Republican my assistant majority leader, Senator Bursell. That means any adversary countries to United States, China, Russia, Iran,
would it
North
stop
Korea.
the purchase of this water bottle company if it passes?
Well, depends.
It's kind of what it's addressing, correct?
It's within 10 miles of the sensitive military installations. I have to check. I don't think BAE and L3 Harris defense contractors are so-called sensitive installations for militaries. Gotcha. But the whole point, I testified, is that the China has been infiltrated into our country. Right. And there's no truly a private company. Just like you said earlier, any company, any individuals are subject to China's national security law. That means if the one-party system make you to say you got to turn over your customers' data, your users' data, just like a TikTok, right? And also that I want you to do something for your motherland when you are operating business overseas. Are they going to say no? No, it's their duty for all Chinese citizens to do that. That includes the scholar students come to this country. That's why I brought up we had the Confucius Institute on our college campus of UNH for over a decade. Do they even know what damage have they been done?
So like when we have our Chinese exchange students, they're still beholden to their homeland.
I don't say they're bad, but they say though they have a citizen's duty to report, to perform certain things. If they're asked or approached by the Communist Party officials, I'm going to let you to go to the United States to study, to be scholars, but here's something we want you to do. Right. So that's why you got the Chinese students join the protest, BLM, Antifa, now Free Palestine movements on campus. Yep. I don't know if they're paid or not. I don't know if they work for the Chinese government or not, but we just have to be cautious to say China is controlled by one-party dictatorship. They're not elected by people. And their loyalty, they demand your loyalty. They demand your allegiance to that country.
And
understood.
On that note, we've even had conversations privately where we've discussed that they're willing to leverage family members that may still be living in China against you. That if you don't cooperate, they'll receive the repercussions, correct?
Correct. Well, they... I got a death threat from them. I cannot go home for 10 years to see my families. And that's why I don't tell my family members what I'm doing here, but because I don't want them, I want to protect them, so they don't know what I'm doing here until last year my viral debate video went inside China. They saw it, translated into Chinese language too. So I testified, I said that because I am American first. Yeah. I love this country, and I made a sacrifice to speak up and save this country and educate people. So I'm constantly warning people what is the true color of the political system, economic system there, and their biggest victims actually are the Chinese regular people who have no power, no connections, social underclass, poor, have no voices.
So when you saw this purchase in Nashua of this water bottle company, tell us what you know about this particular owner. What should we be worried about with this?
Well, what happened is that some people reach out to me after Washington Times shared this article, say in China invasion of the homeland, say that, Lily, are you aware of this project purchased by Chinese company? I said, no, in Nashua, in your backyard, in your district. So I did the research and I talked to them more. Like you said, this company called, Longfu Shanquan, Huafeng Spring, it's the largest bottled water company in China. It's owned by richest man in China. His name is Zhongshan Shan. And he was just named as #1 richest guy by the Forbes.com on April 29th. And they closed the deal on January 31st when Trump's new secretary for the Treasury Department was not confirmed yet, right? And Biden's people were gone.
A window right where they could get in. You were
yes,
telling me.
Very fishy. Yeah. Because this kind of investment by Chinese biggest men is supposed to be reviewed by the Committee for Foreign Direct Investment here under Treasury Department.
So this was purchased before Trump really got his team in place.
Yes.
They flew under the radar, and they kind of. So, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy, for example, Forbes magazine said that his real net worth is $55 billion. Wow. And richest guy in the world, in China, 27 richest guy in the world today. And on 29th of April. And how come we did not have review record? How come that they do not show he's the one who controls this biggest Chinese company and register some American name company and come here to buy this industrial building on 23 acres? You can walk to L3 Harris company from there, and you can drive 10 miles to go to BAE, which is two defense contractors. And also water supply. Don't you think water, food, or national security issue?
See, this is one of the scariest things that I've seen is our schizophrenic foreign policy. When one administration is so radically pro-China and the next administration is trying to tamp down on their influence here. This is just me putting my conspiracy hat on, but if I wanted to cause problems or play biological warfare games with the United States, I'd probably do it like this.
And there are 50,000 water companies in our country. Would this be beginning of a foreign company at a free country? China, I still think it's our #1 national security and threat.
Right.
Xi Jinping has a China dream to take over the world.
Of course. And now their product that they sell in China,
yes,
are they selling that already here in America? Or is this going to be a new market for this company?
There will be new market, and because water will be probably too heavy to ship to China to sell, but they have most of China's market. So now this might be beginning of the getting into Americans market.
Sure.
And I heard, I did a Chinese language research. There are some complaints about his water bottle business, the water quality. And maybe, now it's time to move to overseas. I also heard his son has American passport and live in Massachusetts. So this deal sold to him was by a Massachusetts, an industrial company based in Boston, and land closed here in Nashua, Hillsborough County Register of Deed. I think I met that guy, Dennis. Actually, name was on it. But no media talk about it. And no state leaders, national leaders know about this. It's a taboo. It's a red flag to say why such a big deal, $67 million purchase in Nashua, New Hampshire. And nobody knew about it until Washington Times. and had an article.
It's not really surprising that his son has a passport here and goes to lives in Massachusetts. When you look at the long history of dictators and despots sending their children here to study in the United States or to gain a foothold in United States industry and then going back to their countries. But what concerns me is what's happening right in our own backyard and how this can so easily pass and get done, and it doesn't raise a red flag for anybody. Has anybody else other than you picked up on this?
Well, I did inform some of our, state senators and governor's office. They did not know about it, and but the thing is, at the national level, federal level, they have not talked about it. I went to Jack his show talk about this, and he was shocked. It's like what? It's like what's going on here in our backyard? So it's very concerning. We need to get to bottom of it. We need to actually have a Treasury Department to investigate this. Why the committee did not review and approve this deal. Yeah.
We're getting the music here, so unfortunately I've got to cut that short. But Lily, I want to invite you back on the show to talk about, we can continue this conversation. I also want to talk about your second congressional district campaign as well, too. Excuse me, Lily Tang Williams, candidate for New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District. You can check her out at lilytangwilliams.com and also Lily, the number 4, Liberty on X. That's at lily4liberty.com. Lou Gargiulo, 2-term New Hampshire State Representative, Republican, coming up to talk more about the zoning issue when Granite State Live continues. Much more coming up right after this. Don't go away.
Thank you for having me.
Sitting on a darker bay, wasting time.
United We Stand, a Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Aciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Mount Sunapee State Park in Newbury, New Hampshire is well known as a ski mountain, but there's actually lots to do there in the summer as well. The Sunapee Ragged Kearsarge Greenway passes through the park and is a great way to hike up the mountain. The 2.1 mile stretch of Greenway Trail brings you through some beautiful shaded woods, and though it does have some steep sections, it's overall a fairly easy hike. From the top of Mount Sunapee there are some awesome panoramic views, and a look down at Lake Sunapee below. The real hidden gem of the mountain is Lake Solitude, which is 1.2 miles of easy hiking from the top. The White Ledge overlook has another great view and is a nice place to take a break before going down to the lake. The woods down by the lake shore are much less dense, but still nice and shaded, and the whole area feels like an inviting place to spend some time. Lake Solitude is one of those places that feels like it could be much farther out in the wilderness than it actually is. Another great place to visit at Mount Sunapee in the summer is the State Beach, which is right across the traffic circle from the mountain. The beach occupies a nice stretch of Lake Sunapee and includes a boat launch.
Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteGrok.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it, and we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for GraniteGrok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best-looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
Hello, Patriots. This is Lily Tang Williams. I'm running for Congress 2026 in New Hampshire. You might remember me, my viral debate moment that destroyed my opponent, Maggie Goodlander, wife of Jake Sullivan, Biden bureaucrat, and part of Merrick Garland impeachment team. She does not live in New Hampshire, but she'll be backed by millions of dollars from deep swamp, deep state. Just look at who was at her wedding. I need your help. Nobody is going to come to help me except you. I'm your grassroots candidate. I'm an American patriot. And please donate $5 now from each of you. Thank you so much, and God bless.
All right, so I want to hear some Teddy Pendergrass. I got to be honest with you. So my wife and I were talking the other day. We were driving back from her mom's house, and we were listening to. I'm going to admit this. Okay, I am a Barbra Streisand fan. I am a heterosexual male who does enjoy a little Barbra every once in a while. And we were talking about who has the best voice. Yeah, whatever. All right, so I identify as a male. I know that. But so as far as female vocalists go, we've got arguably best voices: Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, absolutely phenomenal, and Barbra Streisand. And I would say actually Karen Carpenter. But unfortunately, Karen Carpenter is no longer with us, but she had a phenomenal voice. So when you look at these really, really, really good vocalists that are females, and so the question came up, and I asked Christine this. I said, so who is the top male vocalist? Somebody that has the range and the vocal structure and the integrity to be a male competitor to somebody like, or I guess a accompanist to somebody like Barbra Streisand.
I have to say it.
Really?
Meatloaf. He's got that operatic, he can go high, he can go low, he's got the raspy tone, he can do clean.
His range is huge.
Yes, I would say Meatloaf, and I gotta say Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
Freddie's pretty good, but I mean, does he have the diva type of voice? I would say, to be honest, Teddy Pendergrass. I think Teddy's phenomenal. He's got just such an incredible voice. And then Maurice White from the Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I can't put out rockers like Steven Tyler.
I don't know, actually.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Steven Tyler's also got one too.
Yes.
He's got
not Mark Knopfler.
Yes.
Mark Knopfler?
Yes,
Okay.
I like Mark's voice.
Yeah.
And for modern, current singers who have absolutely, Teddy Swims. Teddy Swims has got the voice. He just had Lose Control is his big one that went so viral worldwide that everybody is trying to do remixes, and he even did an open verse challenge online, which obviously helped it go viral.
Fun.
So every backroom YouTube singer, underground artist did a open verse challenge for Teddy Swims, and it was so phenomenal. I can't help but every time me and my kids are in the car, we jam out and we all sing it, from my 7-year-old now, as of last week, to my wife. We're all going down.
I got to make two comments. I chuckled because somebody just sent me a text message. What about Tiny Tim? Now, I don't think Tiny Tim and, Tiptoe Through the Tulips is really going to do it. But then the other question I have is, one, to our esteemed producer, why the hell are you putting my bald spot on? Come on. I mean, could you be less flattering? Good. That's a little bit better. I don't know. Whether or not that's my best end, I don't know. All right, so we are working to get Lou Gargiulo. Actually, we do have Lou Gargiulo. So before we bring Lou on, last week obviously was the week before we had Len Turcotte on, and so I had Keith Murphy, Senator Keith Murphy, reach out and say, "Hey, listen, are you willing to have me come on the program?" And I said, "Of course. Listen, I will give anybody equal time on my media. I have never denied anybody." Well, I can't say that. There's only one person, David Horowitz, who is the worst interview I've ever done in my life. And so I actually said to his producer, his publicist, I don't actually want to have him back on again.
I am not a David
The
Horowitz
only
fan.
person that I have said, no, I'm really not going to have on the show. I will give anybody equal time, as long as you are respectful, as long as we can have a good, meaningful dialogue that actually informs and educates. If you want to spread your opinion, I have absolutely no problem with that. Hell, I'm even willing to have Ray Buckley on the program. Not that he's ever going to take me up anytime soon, but I would give him equal time as well, too. I stopped counting after like 1,200 days when I had invited him on. But be that as it may. So the conversation about zoning has taken on an absolute life of its own. It's incredible. People are more worked up over this topic than anything else. And of course, now we have the accusations of, well, you're an anti-liberty. No, you're an anti-liberty. No, you're an anti-liberty. No, you're an anti-liberty. And now it becomes this endless cycle of, I got you last. And so you're not able to call me. We can only talk about this amongst ourselves in these little echo chambers, because if we don't, then we're going to be accused of being anti-liberty. So I want to continue the dialogue. So I do have coming in at 8:30 this evening. We have the Matt Mayberry is going to be joining us. And then I wanted to bring Lou Gargiulo on because I know Lou had a lot that he had wanted to say about this. And I don't think, to be honest with you, this is going to be the end of this conversation. I think that this is going to continue on. And this is, I don't know if I'm being overly dramatic here, but I think that this is tearing the Republican Party literally apart in certain instances. Because, I mean, you have just absolute spats and people going apoplectic over this zoning issue. So I wanted to get Lou Gargiulo, two-term Republican state representative from the great state of New Hampshire and co-chair of the New Hampshire 2024 Trump campaign, joining us on video link. Lou, great to have you on the program. Great to see you again, my friend. Thanks so much for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm just going to ask if you can get a little bit closer to your microphone because you're just a little bit muted there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, what's your take on it? Before we get into this, where you stand on this whole zoning issue? Should it be maintained by local? Should control of zoning be maintained by local entities, or should it be handed off to the state of New Hampshire? What do you think about the infighting going on right now, and the extent to which this infighting is actually taking place and expanding?
Well, I think it's sad commentary that Republicans are fighting Republicans on a fundamental issue. And I think the issue comes down to, do you allow what has been going on for the past 50 or more years, where local control exists on zoning decisions, or do you allow people in Concord who have little knowledge of the idiosyncrasies of individual communities and allow them to create laws that will inhibit towns' ability to operate. And I think that there are things on the margins that could or should be done with zoning, but I don't think that it comes down to these vast changes that have huge implications down the road. And I think some of them are not well thought out. I think that when you consider, for example, reducing lot size, well, that may work in some places, but not necessarily in others. Numbers of parking spaces. And I know this particular issue very well when it comes to parking spaces because my company operates $50 billion worth of real estate in condominium complexes all over New England. And without parking, there would be absolute chaos. And reducing it from 1.5 spaces to 1, I think in a lot of cases is problematic. And all it accomplishes is it's a bonus that planning and zoning boards would give to developers if they provided something over and above, like workforce housing. So now you're giving it to them off the cuff. They get it as a right, and it gives them the ability to build a lot more units that they would not have been able to build. I'm not anti-developer, nor am I anti-growth. I struggle with even talking about this whole subject because it somewhat goes against the core. I believe people should have a right to do what they want with their property within reason. And there has to be some degree of reason. And I think we're trying to take the baby and throwing it out with the bathwater because people have said they want to have more housing. Take it from somebody who owns a lot of affordable housing. You cannot build affordable housing in this climate. It's not going to happen. The things that are being built, and I can show you, okay, especially on the seacoast, people are building huge numbers of apartments and condos. The apartments rent from anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a month. The condos start at $750,000, and they're not affordable. So it's a false argument that we're doing this for affordability. So I can't get my arms around why there's such a push. I think that some of the things, like I said earlier, on the margins to make it easier to accomplish certain things, I think is a positive thing. I think, and I've watched over the years, developers thrown through huge numbers of hoops to accomplish building things by people who know that they're going to lose in the process in court, but they tie it up for years at a time. I think that's fundamentally wrong, and I think there are things that could be done to address that. For example, if somebody brings suit to try to prevent a development from taking place with no basis, and eventually it gets tossed, which it usually does, that person should pay the other person's legal fees. So I think there are things to discourage frivolous litigation. I also think there are the things that could be done. I hear the argument that zoning boards and planning boards are out of control. That is not absolutely across the board. It's insane to believe that. There are plenty of hardworking New Hampshire residents who sit on zoning and planning boards who are trying to do the right thing. For the few who are trying to fulfill their desire to keep people out, those people should be addressed. And there are legal means that they could be addressed. The state should create laws that if people are going beyond what is normal and prudent, they should be penalized. But right now, we've decided we're going to change the whole construct of zoning, and we're going to make the state be the final arbiter on what happens in every community across the entire state. I think that's wrong.
Well, ultimately, if that were the case, if the state actually claimed totality over the domain of zoning, who's going to implement this? I mean, it seems like this is just an opportunity for massive government bloat. And to be honest with you, I mean, let's take special interest money out of it from the developer standpoint. It seems like there would be a lot more opportunity for corruption on a state level than there would be at a local level. Or am I just, putting on my rose-tinted glasses here?
No, I think you're absolutely right. But the state is setting up a construct that things can happen in without understanding how it's going to impact the cities and towns. And that is where the problem exists. I think that, like I said, I think there are things that can be done, but to try to do it with a broad brush, I think is wrong. And I don't think people are talking. I think that some people have approached me, wanting to talk, but nothing has ever come from it. And people like Matt Mayberry is a friend of mine, but he is on the other side of all of this. And I get he's representing his client, who's the home builders, and I'm a member of the Home Builders Association. So I profit from some of this, but I think from a long-term perspective, it will damage the state, and I don't want that to happen. And I will continue to do what I can to prevent that from happening.
Lou, I want to interrupt you for a sec because I want to have the producer put up the last comment that just came in on Facebook here, and I wanted to address that because I think it's a good question, and there may be people who aren't familiar with what the answer would be. Linda Camerata asks, are there penalties for planning boards that do not follow existing zoning laws? How would you answer that, Lou?
I would answer that the only way you can invoke the penalty is bring legal action against the person. And I think that can be problematic because if a developer is unfairly dealt with, then that individual would have to bring legal action. It would come down to a trier of fact. I think that the state should be more front and center in the laws to make it very clear that if a person violates what the statute is surrounding or what the laws are in a particular municipality, and if there's any collusion, conspiracy, or anything else to prevent somebody from developing, or if an effort is made to stall the project so that the individual who's trying to do it has to expend huge amounts of legal fees, then I think the planning board or the individual or the municipality should be held accountable. But that doesn't change the fact that to try to do this on a broad brush basis across the state and change the ground rules, I think that's wrong. And I don't think that the people who are doing it really understand long-term implications of what is going to come as a result of it.
And that's my concern is unintended consequences. Come in and we're hearing like in Londonderry, they're having a hard time getting enough water pressure to be able to, flush their toilets or get drinking water. But Lou, my question too is all of the legislation that's pending, if a town or a community decided they wanted to change something, there's a mechanism for them to get that warrant article, which is 25 signatures, and then it comes onto the ballot, and then that community can vote yes or no, whether they want that or don't want that for their environment that they've invested into, to shape kind of that community. And maybe we need to do a better job of educating people as to how to effectuate that change when there is a zoning or something in their town that they feel is antiquated and outdated.
Now, I absolutely agree. That is a mechanism that exists, and those laws are created at the local level. So you get the purest democratic process when you do it in that manner. I think, though, the concern is more about people who are seated on ZBA, zoning boards of adjustment, and planning boards who are taking it beyond what they should be in trying to prevent a project from taking place. And I think that is where there has to be some enforcement level that if somebody is doing that or a board is doing that, then that has to be called out and they have to be held culpable for it.
We have a caller too. Okay.
So we did have that in Loudon, and we did effectuate the change at the ballot box. We made it very well known. We had a selectman that was a tyrant, and we were able to get him out. But let's go with the phone call.
Yeah, we do have a call, so I want to jump over caller. I actually don't have the call screen block up here on my computer. So, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Is that me?
Yep. You're on the air. Welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey there. Hey, Terese. Lou, I'm Maura Chappelle. I'm the one that runs the Facebook and is going to town on social media about these bills. I have a question for you with the overtake. Like, a few minutes ago, because it keeps changing, but a few minutes ago it was really about why are the reps doing this, the senators and the reps, what's their motivation, and what's the end game. And I see the end game as, and especially on X, they're a little more open on X. They get a little click and they talk to each other. It's to actually eliminate local, period. Town meeting, gone. Local control of anything, gone. Everything that I feel like they want, everything at the state. And these are the Republican, the little junior clique, I call them, at the State House. Do you see any of that? Do you hear murmurings of future efforts to get rid of local politicians altogether?
I've heard murmurings of it, but I don't have any credible information that really is what the intent is. But I just think that there are some people who are doing it maybe for the wrong reasons. I mean, there's a lot in play here, and there are a lot of people who stand to make out financially very well. And when you have as much as in play as there is, I mean, people are, I suppose, trying to help those people. I can't say how and why, but that's what it appears.
Do we still have the caller on the line? Or okay, all right. Does that answer your question?
It answers because it's only his. It's what he knows. So yes, it does.
Okay.
But would you? Can I do a follow up?
Sure.
Oh, I was hoping he would touch on how packed house housing is. All the realtors and mortgage and the Airbnb owners and the builders and the plumbers. That's what house housing is made of. I don't know how that committee even exists with the rule about recusing yourself. The whole committee, besides like 3 people, should be recused. And I'll leave it at that. I'll let him answer.
Okay. Thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it.
I can't say I know what the makeup of the committee is, but if that is the case, then yeah, there are rules in the House and in the Senate for recusal. And they should be recusing themselves, or they should be stating if they have a conflict of their conflict, and then so at least people know that they have a conflict. But I'm not sure what people's motivation is. And if somebody's posted something just now that on the screen, follow the money, and that's could be what it's all about, and usually it is. But I'm not going to make accusations against individuals in the House and the Senate. They may think that this is an approach to increase the housing stock in New Hampshire, period. And that's all well and good. I think that this has a lot of consequences that have not been explored that need to be addressed before you roll this out. And I'm hopeful the governor will look at it if these things make it through, and I kind of believe they very well may, some of these will make it through. I hope the governor will look at them with a clear head and make decisions on vetoing some of them or sending them back to both chambers so that they can rethink them and get a little bit more information and testimony from people at the local level who understand it a lot better than they do. I've been involved at the state level and the local level, and I see it from both perspectives. And I don't think having people in Concord who really don't know the absolute makeup of the city and town to try to set policy at a level that will create havoc in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is what's at stake here.
Lou, do we have any indication on which direction the Kelly Ayotte winds are blowing on this legislation?
Hard to know, but if you look at a statement that she made a few weeks back, it sounds like she favors local control. I don't know where she's at. She's kept it close. I'm hopeful that she's smart enough to recognize that this is a hot potato and that the warring factions need to be brought together, not only for this, but also for a whole host of other things. They have a budget that has to be passed that's going to be challenging. And there's a lot of other challenging issues that are out there. And I have to say, there are some things that have been really hot in the past couple of years. Things like parents' rights and transgender and lopping off, genitalia. I mean, it goes the gamut. But this one here is right up there. in the list of those kinds of things. People are really upset and angry over this. And I think they have every right to be, because I think it could change the complexion of the New Hampshire advantage. And for me, that's a big deal.
I think one of the biggest things, Lou, truthfully, is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, what ostensibly is broken in the system right now that would warrant the state coming in and claiming entirety over this particular, I don't want to call it a legislative domain, but an administrative domain, for lack of a better term?
Well, playing the devil's advocate, what people are saying is that there are ZBAs and planning boards that are not allowing projects to go forward for reasons, personal reasons, as opposed to what's in the best interest of the community or the state or the development of housing. And if that's the case, like I said, those people have to be addressed. I've seen it in a situation that I was involved with, and the person was removed from the zoning board because it appeared that they were importing their own position for the wrong reasons, and it just didn't work. So I think that, keep in mind, planning boards are elected. Zoning boards, I'm pretty sure for the most part, are appointed by the governing body. So boards of selectmen appoint them. They have the final say. The boards of selectmen are elected. So if they're not doing what's in the best interest of the community, they can be removed, and you have the ballot box to get rid of people. So now you're delegating the authority to 400 members in Concord and 24 senators.
Yeah.
And is that where you want to put your best foot in? And I don't think so.
Well, I think certainly the old adage "vote the bums out" is a good mantra, but that requires people getting off their asses, getting out of their Barker loungers, and actually taking part in local politics. Which I don't know, that could be wishful thinking. Lou Gargiulo, former New Hampshire Republican state representative. I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program tonight. And again, you're welcome on anytime, sir. Great to see you again.
Thanks for coming on, Lou.
Good chatting with you.
All right. Thank you. All right. We're going to take a very, very quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Matt Mayberry back on the program. Matt, of course, from the New Hampshire Home Builders Association, also former executive director for the New Hampshire Republican Party, the NHGOP. All that plus your phone calls and much, much more when Granite State Live continues. Don't go away.
You're the only one in this whole wide world that I ever need. Turn them on.
If you love camping, but don't love sleeping on the ground, then you might be interested in staying in our Bear Hill cabins. Here, deep in the middle of a state park forest, you can be fully immersed in nature while having the comforts of a furnished cabin to spend your nights. The Bear Hill cabins are located within Bear Brook State Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire, roughly 5 miles away from the main campground. There are currently 8 cabins available for reservation, each of which sleeps between 4 and 6 people. Inside each cabin, you'll find bunk beds, futon pull-out couch, and a table and chairs. Clear vinyl windows can be opened or closed from the outside, and a fire ring and picnic table are just a few steps away from the front porch. A single, family-style bathhouse is the only facility available, along with a few additional porta-potties. Bear Hill Pond is just a short distance from the cabins and can be used for boating or fishing. There is a small beach area which you can walk or drive to for launching a boat or wading into the water. In the years to come, New Hampshire State Parks will continue to expand the number of cabins being offered at Bear Hill. During the fall and spring months, these cabins are especially appealing since temperatures fluctuate so drastically in the evenings. Families may also find this setup quite convenient since it doesn't involve wrestling with an oversized tent and lugging additional gear. This may result in more quality time that you can spend together around the campfire. To make a reservation, visit nhstateparks.org.
Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteGrok.com, We do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. We're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it, and we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for GraniteGrok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best-looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry. That's AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Aceyard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aceyard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. The tender, soulful sounds of Mr. Teddy Pendergrass. He's got a voice like butter. Whipped and unsalted. Welcome back to Granite State Live, the 4th segment of the program on this Tuesday, the 6th. I can't believe it's 6th day of May already. It's nice out there, man. Everything is just exploding. Everything is green. It is just a great time.
I've got my garden tilled.
To be in New Hampshire.
At, Blue Seal the other day to pick up some grain for the animals, and they had their veggie packs out. I was so tempted to just load up my trunk, and I'm like, no, it's gonna rain all week.
That's good though. I mean, it waters everything. Everything is just so green and beautiful, and the ticks are out. And my wife's already got head to toe poison ivy. It's incredible. It's a great time to be in New Hampshire. So
we follow back next week. You'd be mowing the grass all weekend.
And with lots of permethrin, because I'll tell you, those ticks are out there. All right, we're going to continue the conversation about zoning. Joining us in studio, as many of you saw him last week, he is back on this week. Former executive director of the New Hampshire Republican Party, the NHGOP, and current chief executive officer of the New Hampshire Home Builders Association, Matt Mayberry. Matt, thanks so much for coming back. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. The bruises kind of healed a little bit, so I'm ready for more.
I like that. That's a great spirit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, this is, I got to be honest with you, in the, 10 years that I've been here, I don't think I have seen a more contentious issue. I'm kind of curious about this. Maybe you want to opine, maybe you don't want to opine. But as the former executive director for the New Hampshire Republican Party, and listen, we all understand, or at least we should understand, the hardest working person in the New Hampshire Republican Party headquarters is not the chairperson, who's there basically to clink glasses and attend socials, and it's not the vice chair. It's the person that does the heavy lifting is the executive director. So you've had direct experience with this.
And actually, I was vice chair of the party. So I got to do even less than the chairman and way lot less than the executive director. So
you couldn't get in trouble, basically.
I couldn't get in trouble. But what I did do during that 2016 primary was I had a chance to introduce and be part of the stage performance of President Donald Trump. Because when other Republicans would not stand on stage with him, would not be in the building with him, raised my hand and said, I'll go. I'll do it. This is a good, viable candidate. And now people are just scrambling like, I was with you when.
Sure you were.
Yeah. Sure you were.
Isn't that how it always works? There's it takes courage to stand up when nobody else will, and then the wave riders come as soon as you see that cresting. All of a sudden, everyone's like, "I was out there. I was on the 50-foot wave. Yeah. I'm the Maverick."
Absolutely, but that's what we do in New Hampshire. We participate. Yeah. We have discussions. Yeah. Sometimes they're heated. Sometimes they're pointed.
Sometimes we rip each other's throats out, literally. I mean, going for the juggler on this.
Well, that's why I'm wearing the headphones kind of around my neck.
Oh, so that's a protective tactic. I like that.
It really is.
There we go. Okay.
But this is how we get to the best answers.
Yeah.
Because right now there's 153 bills that touch housing. And they're all being lumped into like one or two bills. And they're saying, just vote no, just vote no. But some of these bills, they actually they reduce state government by 2 positions to expedite things. With the Department of Transportation, we're bringing forward a program that'll cut a year off the waiting time. And if if you build, time is money. Mm-hmm. It's those interest rates, it's those carry costs. And we're doing public-private partnerships, but they're getting washed over by SB 84, talking about zoning. This is all about zoning and local control. No, it's about housing. It's about getting people out of the way, getting government, local government and state government out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, there was actually a graphic that we had where we talked about the permits and, what was taking 2 years to get a permit at the state level for the environment. You and I talked about that after the show. Those things I think everyone's good with. Everyone's comfortable with those things. And, of course, there's going to be over 100 bills that go through that committee. There's 24 in particular, though, that the language very much lifted right off of this organization. That is what I think is causing a lot of concern or alarm, especially when you kind of read that organization, what their end game's all about. And I think that's where people are really nervous that the New Hampshire advantage is in jeopardy should some of this pass. Mm-hmm. At least from my perspective.
Absolutely, and that's why in the propaganda that I give you folks, and we put out there, the New Hampshire home builders, we're focused on about 13 bills. Of them, 11 of them are genuine, original thoughts because they came from my head to the laptop and working with legislators, because we talk to actual builders, actual contractors, and say, what's in your way? And a lot of it's just red tape and getting messed around with. Mm-hmm. There's one bill 170 that was it passed the housing committee today and will go to the full house shortly. But in their provisions, it says that when you bring a plat to the TRC, or the Technical Review Committee, they can go through it. They say, Terese, I think this is great. If you could add a fence here, if you can move the storm water drainage over here, put that playground in the back instead of in the front, we should be good to go. Mm-hmm. That's all very normal. But what has happened is they'll keep going back to the apple, saying, could you add some trees? Can you add a fence? Can you add that? What happens now in 170, it'll say you have 7 days from that technical review for the town to come back and say, Keith, we think it's great. We wish you'd do conifers instead of deciduous trees. Then you're done. Then you get to go to the planning board. It's being misinterpreted, thinking that we're taking away the planning board process, and we're not. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get rid of the problem at the front end. That's usually behind the scenes.
So I wanted to have Juan just pull up, if you could, the last comment that came in, because I wanted to address this. I think it was Maura's comment, if you have that, and that's going to come up on the bottom of the screen.
Well,
here,
we're waiting
Matt,
for that to come up. I have the.
Here we go. So Matt Mayberry from New Hampshire, from someone who can't get through on the phone, where are the funds going to come from to upgrade infrastructure that this affordable housing encompasses?
Oh, okay. So she's trying to call into here. Got it.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations. So for the funds to get here, to build here, it would actually come from potentially ADUs accessory dwelling units, those in-law apartments. Those who are over the 40 years old know them as in-law apartments. But it's allowing multi-generational living. I spoke to one person who we all know around this table, and everyone who's listening and watching at home. He has a special needs daughter and is trying to ask for more information about the ADUs because he wants to build one off the back of his garage. Same roof line, everything. His septic can handle this. The town says no, can't do it. This ADU bill would allow him to do that and care for his special needs daughter. That's the kind of stuff that's going to help.
So this is something I actually have on my house. I actually have an accessory dwelling unit, same roof line, same septic, everything. And my mother lives in it so that I can take care of her because she's getting up there in age and requires a caregiver. So I understand where this is going.
But when you look at some of the comments, because the hyperboil just keeps going, and it's getting. I can't wait for this legislation to be over because it's ratcheting up. Today there was someone, I'll leave his name out of it, but he just said there'll be a mobile home in every backyard. Is that what you want New Hampshire to look like?
So where is that specifically coming from? The idea that there's going to be a mobile home. What is the language that they're drawing on there?
Their own imagination.
Well, I would say that's not true. Right here, HB 685, statewide manufactured housing zoning reform, bans towns from excluding manufactured housing regardless of aesthetic environmental fit. Towns with scenic landscapes or traditional New England character may be forced to accept trailer parks or modular developments. But if we go back to SB 170, the one we were talking about before, that one forces the towns to provide utility access through buffer zones. Yeah. So now there's a responsibility on the town to provide infrastructure.
No, it's not. That does not say that at all.
So local control over who can live together forces towns to provide utility access through buffer zones.
No. Do you know what that really means? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll stop.
That's okay. Go ahead.
What that really means is when you go into any subdivision, there's usually a setback from the road.
Sure.
And Matt, I'm going to have you, if you don't mind, can you take your headphones off? There we go. Because we're getting a little bit of feedback. There we go. Sorry. Perfect. Okay.
Now my throat's wide open.
There we go. I promise I will not go for the jugular.
But when you all go into a subdivision,
you
usually have that setback. There's a half acre. Mm-hmm. In there, what it says is you can put in those underground utilities. You can put in a stormwater drain. If you have common land in the back, you can put a stormwater drain in there. You can put in some of the utilities. We've all seen it before. I call them a candy cane graveyards after 35 years of selling real estate. But in the middle of a cul-de-sac, it's a common leach field, or multiple leach fields do that. That's what that allows, because some communities say we don't want that, to try to limit the number of homes that are in those common areas. So it doesn't say, this is not a thing for Eversource or public utilities. This is saying for the infrastructure for that development can go in common areas. That's common sense.
Is that something that a community could petition for through a warrant article?
Sure. The same warrant article that stopped the trash pickup in Allenstown, that shut down the town of Chichester because they don't have a town administrator. So
we got a phone call coming in.
Yeah, we got a call coming in, so we're going to jump over to the phone lines. Welcome to Granite State Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Trish.
Hi, Trish.
Hello?
How are you?
Hi, good and yourself, you guys. I'm calling in. There's way too much to unpack in all of these conversations in moments, but I would like to say that we have experienced personally many issues in the town of Raymond, and if anybody truly wants to sit down and have honest dialogue in meetings, the force has left the stables and we're having these discussions, and I think that it's a little late to be doing this, but we could have discussions about the finances and the cost. They are tremendous. There are tremendous issues on all these bills that are going to cause people to have to reevaluate things such as Class 6 roads. We have an issue with our neighboring town right now, unable to afford the upkeep of that road. They are trying to have us take over the part that is in our town. ADUs. We currently have ADUs in our own town. You can attach them. You can have them attached, so we have no septic issues near our wetlands. And I'm not actually sure if you guys can even hear me. I can see the TV.
We can hear you.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many issues. If you sit down and take each one of these bills, and I could give you an example for every single one of them that either has an unfunded mandate, implications to the town. We had an issue last week at our planning board. I think that people work very hard to make sure our mandates of what we are directed as elected officials are met. And I've heard from numerous people, this is a form of punishment. All these bills are to punish.
Matt, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I'll go for it because it's in my head. The town of Raymond shouldn't be casting stones in any direction. They put a 16-stall gas station and a truck stop on top of their aquifer. Not next to it, not across the street, on top of it. So when they talk about, following the rules and, all this overreach, they should look in their own backyard first. How's that local control working out for Raymond right now? Because if diesel leaks into their aquifer, guess who they're going to come running to? The state. Come clean it up.
So now is the state going to be responsible for oversight of the whole state to prevent something like that from happening?
No,
because that's a lot of cost at the state level.
That's local control right there.
So
is that good? So should you have to pay for their mistake?
I hope you're going to let me. This is the second time.
So just go ahead and throw your headphones on.
This is the second time you have disparaged. This is the second time he has disparaged the town. And let me tell you, and I say to Terese, we had our select board walked out. We had our town manager walk out because we, the new board, the new planning board, the board of selectmen went to fix this issue. And we were not, this was done by a developer. This was the state involvement. And this is not the place to have that. And to throw this out as an issue against these bills and disparage and say that, I think that is shameful. And
no, but if you talk about the septic systems from ADUs infiltrating your water, you talk about water, you talk about leachate. So when you talk about water, you got to talk about all of it.
So, but we're not talking.
And you're absolutely right. And I apologize.
No, that's okay. Go
ahead. Your priority. We want you guys calling in.
So I think that it's despicable that that's actually the 100% reason why all of the new members on these boards got involved in the fact that we didn't get assistance from the state for this, and that this project, which had gone through with a developer who had done this, put the town in this predicament, and we tried valiantly to get it to not be on our gas station.
And the one thing
we went to the governor, we went.
So it sounds like there's a lot to unpack here, but what I'm hearing is that we're not, with these bills, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not putting in the infrastructure to police, even at the state level, where something may or may not go. I mean, you're still going to have people making certain that we're not jeopardizing water, that people can flush their toilets. And I think when I look at this, I'm just a little worried about where that governance is going to be. I do like the fact that there was something that was catastrophic that caused that town to rise up and push those people out and put new people in. And that's kind of the beauty of having that local control.
And that's where I was going to go with you on that it's unfortunate it takes tragic incidents to rise people up. Last week you talked about, you didn't like what was happening in Loudon, and so you essentially filibustered for 4 hours, but you cut $2 million from that school budget because it was wasteful spending. Unfortunately, we want other people to do the heavy lifting for us, but then when it impacts us, we finally step up to do it.
Yeah.
It's, when your neighbor loses a job, it's unfortunate. When you lose your job, it's tragic.
It's too little too late by that point.
Usually is.
Matt, I'm going to ask you to throw your headset on again because we've got another call, so we're going to jump over to the phone line. Caller, welcome to Granite State Live. You're on. What's your question?
Does Matt have his headphones on?
Yep, we're good. We're good. If you don't mind, first name and town you're calling from.
I didn't want to start if he. Sure, Maura Colebrook.
Okay.
So I talk fast anyway because I know we're up to the clock. So I'm going to say my questions for Matt, and I know this is for other people, but they might not know that this is rebroadcast. Like this is online, so they can go back and go, "What the hell did she say?" So if you missed what I say now, because I'm doing it in haste, that this is you can always go back. And Matt, I hope even if you can't answer them now, that you will. I know you have all those Facebook groups and all that. You can answer these questions at a different time, and I hope you will. And you seem decent about that, so I'll give you that. I'll give you that credit. So one question, just sort of pointing it out, and I want you to talk about it. And SB 170 adds that college students will be considered a protected class like race, gender, and all that. With the detached ADUs, until a line in it says that they cannot be used for short-term rentals, aka Airbnbs, I will not believe that is not they are. If you combine SB 84 with HB 577, which is the smaller lot sizes and the ADUs, you could potentially have 400 brand new houses all at once on a half acre each on 100 acres. So people need to be aware of that one. Class 6 roads, I heard nothing about any discussion of any tourist impact. Up in Coles County, those Class 6 roads bring us tourists. That hurts our industry. You can't build on those. You can't willy-nilly build on those. If the parking issue is that each parking space, by the way, those can be dirt. You guys keep talking about the cost of asphalt. They can be dirt. If the parking space supposedly should be eliminated because that footage could be used for a much-needed bedroom, then put in that bill that also the two-story foyers in McMansion. Those two-story foyers. Google them if you don't know what they are. Others, I know Matt does. Google them and what they outlawed. In HB 342, might be SB, I didn't put the thing, that a developer can build in a like neighborhood. If they can come something and go, well, there's one over there, so we get to do it. What if that didn't work out? Maybe that was a shit show and cost them a lot of money and brought this and that. And now the state's going to force them to allow a second one? There might be a problem with the first one. In SB 84, in the shrinking of the lot sizes, property taxes will go up if you own acreage. The property taxes, because all those acres will now be more buildable lots, and the DRA is going to look at all those buildable lots and go, wow, he can make a lot of income off that, and your taxes, your assessment, therefore your taxes will go up. The moratorium, I won't even get into that. That's its own issue. RSA 672 in 1983 gave zoning to the municipalities. None of these bills seeks to repeal 672. So how are none of these bills flying in the face of that? Most of these bills did not even pass because they fly in the face of RSA 672, which was updated in 2019. So you guys can get over that. Oh, zoning started in 1925. 2019 was the most recent update. And I will end on combine, get a pencil, combine SB 282, SB 94/HB 428, because they're going to combine HB 631 and SB 283. And you have a lot of dead people in a fucking tall building fire. And pardon my language, I'm sorry. I've been in a structure fire. SB 282, I will die on this hill. I will campaign against friends who I campaigned for them in 2020 if this bill passes and they've voted out to pass for it. SB 282 is the worst I've seen come through Massachusetts or New Hampshire legislature, and you should be ashamed of you. I will leave it at that. You can answer without me on the phone. I'm thirsty now.
Okay. Maura, thank you very much for the call. So, I mean, boy, she gave you a lot here. I do want to mention, too, that we do have an extra 10 minutes on air, so we're going to be going until 10 minutes past 9, so got a little bit of bonus time now.
Absolutely. A lot of those are not, of the 153 bills, 140 of them did not come from the home builders. So let's talk about some of the data, the real data in New Hampshire. In 2024, 5,092 building permits were pulled in the state of New Hampshire. That was broken down to 1,516 for multifamily homes. And that can be an apartment building, it could be a duplex. just under 3,000 were for single-family homes. That's in 2024. This is not going to create a giant plethora of building. We need 40,000 units. We're trying to get there. 84% of our state is protected forest, either through current use, natural forest, state forest lands. So we're dealing with about 16% of our state. That's the building envelope right now. I agree with the caller that I was against, because to me it flew in the face of common sense. If you have a 6-story building, apartment building, and you only have one center staircase,
that's dangerous.
Absolutely.
You get one person with a wheelchair, and the rest of them are
absolutely.
You can't get out.
And I think we talked about that because fires do start in stairwells. So in working with the fire marshal and bringing it forward, it came down to 4 stories, and they're going to find it. I think they retained it or holding it because they're trying to find another way to do it. Other staircase, at least one more.
In 2 years, though, it would go back to 6 stories, is what I read.
Not that I heard. I was in there.
That was the latest that I've seen.
Okay.
That amendment.
I want to go into this is something I wanted to bring up last week because this is I want to kind of summarize the way that I see it, and I'm not going to say that I'm the outsider looking in, but I've only been here since 2015. I want to go back in the way back machine to 2018, and this is when Jeff Feingold was the editor of the New Hampshire Business Review. So as the host of the morning show up at WNTK and WUVR, Jeff invited me to participate in a roundtable of concerned stakeholders in the Dartmouth, Lake Sunapee, and Upper Valley region. So Hypotherm was there, Wheelan was there, Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center was there. Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical and Dartmouth College, they came out and said, Dartmouth College came out and said, and this is in 2018, we need 5,000 units of individual workforce housing just to be able to house the anticipated needs over the next 4.5 to 5 years. The bottom line is that there is no affordable workforce housing. When you hear about these condominiums that are going up $750,000, who the hell in the workforce can afford a $750,000 house? When you go on Zillow and you look at these houses, $635,000, you should make $140,000. I'm sorry, that's unless you're a travel nurse, which doesn't make you a permanent resident here, would make you, the ADUs would be attractive. This is non-sustainable. So people move. Suddenly now property becomes available. Now, with the control of the zoning through the state, this is the way that I see this, that now we start to get into, and you mentioned the term earlier, and as a fiscal conservative, I hate public-private partnerships because it gives privileged status to one group and it locks out legitimate competition by others. I see public-private partnerships with the state to go into multi-unit housing across the state that is now vacant because people can't afford to live here and people can't afford to buy homes. And I think that's what a lot of the concerns are here.
But when you have private entities willing to pay for staffing to cut government bureaucracy at no income, at no impact to the taxpayers, isn't that a good thing? If our builders are saying to the Department of Transportation, because right now, if you were to get in a building, a driveway permit, right now, it takes anywhere between 14 and 18 months to get that. And it's first in, first out. So you could have a Walmart distribution center, a Cumberland Farms, someone who wants a driveway to their barn, and an 8-unit subdivision. First in, first out. Sometimes they take longer, they don't. What we're saying, and working with this public-private partnership, is saying we, the builders, will pay per door and an application fee to have an ombudsman review the file, make sure it's there, make sure it's clean, get it through the process, and then so we can start building. If we can cut a year off the holding costs.
I think when it comes to the permits that are taking 18 months, 24 months to get those cleared,
that's ridiculous.
That is
and
something
that
we all agree needs to be, fast tracked.
But rather than go to the budget writers and say, "Hi, give us $175,000 so we can fund this," we, the private entity, said to the public entity, "We'll pay for it."
Just so we can develop, right.
And DES,
no, and I understand
when you look at the alteration of terrain permits.
But see, that's not taking away local control in my mind. And there's a lot of bills, like Tom just said, I think it was 188, and that one's not on my list. There's 140 that are, and some of them are really good, streamlined, cut the bureaucracy at the state level so that people can do what they need to do at the local level, but it's not taking it away from our local planning. Like, I know today you testified about Londonderry and that there was a 40-unit development that the developer was shut down, couldn't develop, but then I'm also hearing that because of, what do they call it, the PSAT or whatever, the water, PFAS, the water issues that they're having in Londonderry. And so if you can't get clean drinking water and you can't get the infrastructure to keep up with this high density development, you're going to Hart's Turkey Farm with Sorens.
Yes.
And it's really important to understand the 22-page white paper that he wrote and what his end game is, because to me it's not liberty. You won't find anyone in this. I have goats, I have chickens, I probably drive my neighbors crazy. I am all about having your property be your property to do with what God given you to do it with. But I also had to research when I went to buy my house. Can I have my horses here? Can I have my chickens here? And I have been able to effectuate change at the local level. It scares me bejeebies because I go down to the state house and I don't see people complaining about getting the variance or being able to get their, disabled child to be able to live in the backside of their house. And if you do have those tyrants representing you at that local level, well, then oust them. But I also don't want a moratorium that says, Mr. Town, you can't tell us we can't come in and develop. I don't care that you don't have proper water infrastructure to make sure everyone can flush their toilets. And that's what the bills that I've looked at, it doesn't help with property. It's not property right driven to me. It's not affordable housing driven to me. It is developer driven.
You do your research and you process this well. For the majority of folks who work 60 hours a week, trying to make the ends meet, trying to pay that rent, they don't know. They only know what they might see on social media. And so what I'm asking them is to read the bills, because some of those you talked about, every single one of the bills that are in this pile right here talks about you
and
have
we can
to
reconcile what you've got.
But let me finish,
versus
please.
what
I didn't cut you off.
Sure.
You have to comply with DES. You have to comply with zoning. Yeah. You have to get your permits. You can't usurp anything. When we talk about the DOT and the driveway cuts, there's actually now 2 eyes looking at those safety and those traffic studies, not just 1, 2. And they can actually focus on it versus trying to process it through because they're behind. They do 1,700 permits a year on this. So I'm asking people, please take a look at bills like 188 that will save towns money, because 20% of our state does not have building inspecting officials. It's usually the fire chief, who may not. They may have built, their
and
deck
I know
in
as
the
a
backyard.
foster mom, they have different rules, to get licensed and cleared to be a foster parent. One fire chief says you have to have this egress, and another says this. So I get standardizing some things, and I understand like building codes should be standardized, and there should be like a roadmap for these planning and zoning and volunteers that get elected to do this for our communities and our towns. And I would encourage everyone to ask Matt, which are the bills that you feel good about? Because I think I agree with 188. And then Terese, what are the ones that are giving you heartburn?
Yeah.
And read them.
I hate to do this, kids, but we're the sand is going through the hourglass. So Matt, I want to give you the last 30 seconds, and then I want to close out with one more question to you.
Thank you so much. What I'm asking everyone to do is just take a breath. Look at the bills. If you go on the New Hampshire Home Builder site, you have my contact information. My cell number is 603-969-7077. I'm happy to, it's one sheet of paper. Do your research. We've done ours, willing to help, and I'll give you the data. I told the state representative today, you can't support this. It's bad for your town. I'll be honest with you, because I live in the state, just like the rest of us. And I'm going to be here the day after tomorrow.
I'd love to have a copy of that.
And the one question that I do have for you is, would you be willing to get together with a group of people on both sides of the argument and do a couple of town halls across the state. We'll facilitate this. We'll facilitate the dialogue. But I think I would love to be able to go to different places. Keene, maybe go up to Coos County, maybe over on the Seacoast. Get 2 or 3 or 4 town halls together. Facilitate a dialogue where people can ask questions. It would be respectful. But I think this is something that really needs to be taken to the people, and people need to do their homework. That's the bottom line.
As long as we can invite the state representatives and state senators, because 3 of the calls I got today all said the same thing. There's too many housing bills. We're all confused. If we don't know it, we're just going to start voting no, and chips fall where they may.
Okay.
So do it. But please invite state reps.
Yeah, no, we can. I'll work with you, and I'll work with both sides of the aisle here to facilitate this. But let's get some of these on the calendar as quickly as possible. Matt, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Oh, my pleasure.
Matt Mayberry, former executive director of the New Hampshire GOP, former vice chair of the New Hampshire GOP, and current CEO for New Hampshire Home Builders Association. Thanks so much. Again.
Thank you.
That is going to do it for this week's edition of Granite State Live. We will be back next week at 7 p.m. to do it all over again. Until then, folks, be safe and be nice to one another, because civility does work. God bless everybody. Have a great week.